That's beautiful. So this morning, we will be looking at simultaneous linear equations. Like I said, we'll be having mathematics this morning in place of chemistry, as our chemistry teacher is unavoidably absent. So chemistry will be coming up next week. So standing in for that is what is bringing up mathematics this morning. Teniola, you are welcome to the class.
Good morning, sir.
How are you doing? And hope you had a good night.
Yes, sir.
All right. So I see you've changed your sitting position. What's the problem? We can't see your face. Okay. So I'll try to make an adjustment to that so that we can see your face clearly and the class can be better interactive. So we are expecting some other participants to join the class this morning. So, but we are not going to wait. The class is going to start while they join us in the middle of the class. So I hope we all slept well. I hope Chisom slept well, and I also hope Teniola slept well.
Yes, sir.
All right, that is beautiful. So you can see me clearly and you can hear me clearly, all right?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Okay, good. So this is what we have today. We want to quickly look at simultaneous linear equations. That is our topic. The class will be a little bit fast. Yes, the class will be a little bit fast. And the few things I'm going to have on the screen, you have to write them very fast also. But the explanation will be step by step. You are going to get it, despite the fact that I will take the class very fast. The explanation will still be step by step. Okay, so what do we want to look at under simultaneous linear equations? Now, the first thing we need to look at is we need to know the features of simultaneous linear equations. You know, if you don't know the features, you may not be able to understand what you need to do, or perhaps when you see questions that are like this, you don't know if they are simultaneous linear equations or not. Okay, so that is the first thing we need to do. Usually when you have questions, say WAEC, say NECO, say GC, for example, you have lots of questions. So there is need for you to be able to identify the questions that you are given. It is good for you to identify the question that you are giving. So that is what we want to look at now. You know, if you see a boy, there are certain things you see in a boy that makes him a boy. If you see a girl, there are certain things you see in a girl that make a girl. So these are the things that we call features, identifiable features. Now, number one, the first thing is that simultaneous linear equations, usually two equations are involved. So usually you have two equations together in that question. You have two equations. You see one at the top, you see one beneath. Usually two equations are involved. So when you see two equations written together and you are told to solve, that is a simultaneous linear equation. Then number two, another feature that they have is that there are two unknowns in the question. So you will see two unknowns. It's either you see x and y in the two equations, rather. Yes, in the two equations, you see x and y, or you see m and n, or you see a and b. You definitely see two unknowns. And why you have two unknowns is because for you to be able to solve in mathematics generally, if you want to be able to solve for one unknown, you need one equation. If you want to solve for two unknowns, you need two equations. If you are solving for three unknowns, you need three equations. So the number of unknowns that you are solving for determines the number of equations you are going to have. So if you have two unknowns, one equation will not be able to solve it. You know, one equation will not be able to solve two unknowns. Okay, so that is why. So if you look at it now, if you see that the number of equations must balance the number of unknowns in the question. So in simultaneous linear equations, you usually have two unknowns. And because of that, we also usually have two equations. Okay, and then the third feature is that solution to one unknown leads to the other. Because they are simultaneous linear equation, that is, they are simultaneous, they go together, they are happening at the same time. So once you are able to solve the first one, it will lead you to be able to solve the second one. And that is how simultaneous linear equation works. You can't solve the two unknowns independently. No, one unknown is dependent on the other. So maybe you first of all find X, and after finding X, you now go ahead and find Y. Okay, so that is a feature. Now, simultaneous linear equations can be solved using, you see, I have highlighted about 4 methods that can be used to solve simultaneous linear equations. We have the substitution method, we have the elimination method, we have the graphical method, and we have the determinant method. Usually, this determinant method, you don't always find it in your general mathematics textbook, because determinant is a topic under matrices. Is a subtopic under matrices for those who are doing further mathematics for science students. So it is not usually under general mathematics. But I have decided to include it for the purpose of those who are science students here. And then, you know, as you go on, you know, sitting for JAMB, you begin to meet all of this, because when you are sitting for JAMB's curriculum does not major only on general mathematics. There are some parts of further mathematics also that are included in the JAMB curriculum, or let's say the JAMB syllabus. So that's why you see matrices, you see determinant in JAMB. So for those who have not done further mathematics before, it becomes an issue for them. It becomes a problem for them, because they are not exposed to this aspect of mathematics. So for us here now today, we have determinant as part of the method that we are talking about. So I have highlighted substitution method in your head, because that is the one that we want to talk about today. So it is substitution method we want to talk about today. Are we together? Do we have Chisom and Tenny in class? Teniola, are you in class?
Yes,
Chisom, are you in class? Okay. So let us move on.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Let's move on to solving this, how to use some substitution method to solve simultaneous linear equations. Now we have an example. We are going to consider an example. We have an example here. Solve the equation 2x plus 3y equals to 10, x plus 3y equals to 8. So this is a perfect example of a simultaneous linear equations. Let's look at the features. The features that I told you earlier. Now you see there are two equations. So that tells us that the feature is correct. And then there are two unknowns. We have the unknown x and also the unknown y. We have the unknown x and also the unknown y. Okay, so this tells us that what we have said earlier on about the features of simultaneous linear equation is correct. So we have two equations, we have two unknowns. So we are going to go straight away to solve this simultaneous linear equation using substitution method. Like I said, today we are concentrating on substitution method. You know, most times in the classroom, the teacher do not have enough time to introduce to the students details about each of these methods. You know, most times the teacher do not have that time. So that is why we are appreciating this kind of platform where we are able to look at each of them one after the other. So we are not looking at all the methods today. No, we're not going to do that. We look at each of the method one after the other. So at the end of the day, you will be not just that you'll be taught all the method, but you will be able to understand how each method works, and then you can decide to use any method to solve. If you are told to use any method to solve, you can use any method to solve. If you are required to use a particular method to solve, you will also be able to do that. Okay, so that is why we are doing what we are doing today. Now let us go ahead to the solution of this question. Now solution 2x plus 3y equals to 10. So the first thing to do is to label this as equation 1. You label it, that's the first equation. We label it as equation 1. And then we go to x plus 3y equals to 8. Then we label this as equation 2, because that is the second equation that we have from the question. The question is what states these equations to us. So we have this as equation 1, and then we have this as equation 2. Okay, now, where the substitution method comes in is this. Now you look at these two equations very carefully. Look at them very carefully. Here we have 2x plus 3y equals to 10. Here we have x plus 3y equals to 8. So if you look at the two equations very carefully, now, before you use substitution method, before you start, you look at them and say, which one is having the unknown staying alone or standing alone? Which one is having the unknown standing alone? Which one of these expressions now is having the unknown standing alone? You are going to see that it is what? It is x. You see the x here is standing alone. There's no 2 beside it. There's no 4. There's no -5 beside it. There's no So you see that x here is standing alone. Here you have 2x. Here you have 3y. Here also you have 3y. But here you have x standing alone. So that is equation 2. Okay, so that means if you want to start substitution now, you are going to start from equation 2 because that is where you have x standing alone. So that is why we are going to say from equation 2, x plus 3y equals to 8. And then because this x is already standing alone in that equation, so just make it the subject of the formula. What do? This plus 3y, you transfer it to the other side. You transfer it to the other side so that this x that was standing alone before will now become the subject of the formula. It's going to become a king in that kingdom because it's already standing alone. So just send all the other people away to the other side and make x to stand alone and become a king. Okay, so that is why you take this 3y and transfer it to the other side. It becomes minus when it gets there. So you are now going to have x is equal to 8 minus 3y. You're going to have x equals to 8 minus 3y. Please pay attention to my explanation. It is very much important. My explanation is very much important. Pay attention to my explanation. Okay, I'm going to give you time to copy it out. Just listen to my explanation so that you are going to understand what I'm teaching here. So when you have x equals to 8 minus 3y, we now call that one equation 3. We label it as equation 3 because that is where x is now standing alone. X is now the subject of the formula. So we call that equation 3. Daniela, I hope you are concentrating. Okay. So once we have done that, we are now going to substitute. You substitute 8 minus 3y for x in equation 1. Don't forget, where did we get this equation 3 from? From where did we get this equation 3? From where did we see that x was standing alone? Is it equation 1 or equation 2? Yes, who is with me to answer that question? From where did we see? From equation 2. Thank you, Chisom. It is from equation 2 that we saw that x was standing alone. Okay, so from there now we now made x to be the subject of the formula, and then we label it as equation 3. So if you want to substitute this now, you will not substitute back into that equation 2. You substitute to equation 1. If you substitute back into that equation 2, you are going to get 0. You will not get anything. You get 0. Everything will be 0. It will cancel out. So you don't substitute back into that equation 2. You go and substitute into equation 1. So we are going to substitute 8 minus 3y for x in equation 1. And equation 1 says that 2x plus 3y equals to 10. That is what equation 1 states. So anywhere we find x in this equation 1, what are we going to put? We are going to put 8 minus 3y. That is the meaning of substitution. You are putting 8 minus 3y in place of x. You are substituting it. In football, you know, when a player is tired or a player has been wounded, what do? You substitute. That player is going to come out, another person will enter and take his place on the pitch. So that is exactly what is happening. So where we have x now, look at this, 2 into bracket, we now put 8 minus 3y. That means we have substituted for x. Then we put plus 3y also is there, is equal to 10. So what we do to this expression is that we expand it out. 2 times 8 will give us 16. 2 times minus 3y will give us minus 6y. Then we have plus 3y equals to 10. So from here, what do? We collect like terms. 16 minus 6y plus 3y, that gives us minus 3y equals to 10. Okay, we collect like terms again. 10 comes here, minus 3y goes out. So when 10 comes here, it becomes minus 10. We have 16 minus 10 is equal to 3y. When minus 3y goes here, it becomes plus. So that is 3y. Okay, so when you minus 16 minus 10, if you do this, 16 minus 10, you're going to get 6. You don't need a calculator to do that. You can just do that, offhand. You don't need a calculator for that. 16 minus 10 gives us 6 equals to 3y. And then because we are looking for y, you divide both sides by what? Divide both sides by 3. Y equals 6 divided by 3, and that gives us y is equal to 2. So let me allow you to copy all of this now. Copy all of this very fast. Let me allow you to copy all of this very fast, because I see that you have been paying attention to the steps, and that is very important, because this is mathematics. This is not English or any other subject where you can just be writing and be listening. No, in mathematics, your eyes must be on the screen. Your eyes must be on the screen, because as I'm explaining, I am pointing at those things. So if you are not, if your attention is not on the screen, you are not going to see those parts where I'm pointing at. So let me just give you time to copy this before I move to the next slide. Do that very fast. And when you are through, you let me know.
So I've not copied the first one.
You've not copied the first one, okay, because you were logged out. Perhaps the network logged you out. Is it this slide, or which one?
Yeah, this one.
This particular one. Okay, let me just give you a few seconds to do that. Chisom, what about you? I can't hear you. What's wrong with your device? Your voice is not coming out. Your voice is not coming out at all. Come again.
I'm true.
Okay, you are true with the two.
I'm true with this position.
Okay, with this one, and then the next one. Okay.
I'm true with this one.
Okay, you're true with this. Okay. So what about this? What about this slide?
No, sir.
Okay, Teniola is writing this. What of Chisom? Are you writing this?
Yes.
Okay. So let me just give you a few seconds to do that. Just make sure you copy it out while I go over. I'm going to go over the explanation. So what we have done here is that from equation 2, we have identified an unknown that is standing alone. Okay, so that unknown that is standing alone, we'll bring it out, and then we make it the subject of the formula. So once we make it the subject of the formula, we label that as what? As equation 3. We label it as equation 3. So after labeling it as equation 3, we will now substitute it into equation 1. We are not going to substitute it back. Keep writing while I'm explaining. Keep writing, Chisom. Keep writing. I've explained before. I just want to go over it again while you are writing. So just keep writing. Okay. So we now substitute it back. Once we have made it this, we have made x equals to 8 minus 3y. We've made x the subject of the formula, and we have labeled it as equation 3. We now substitute it. I told you that you are not going to substitute back into the equation where you brought it out from. No, you substitute it into another equation. If you have brought it out from equation 1, you will now substitute it into equation 2. If you have brought it out from equation 2, you substitute it into equation 1. That's what you are going to do. So where you have x, you put in 8 minus 3y, and then you expand this, and then you simplify, collect like terms, and then you get y equals to 6 divided by 3, which is y equals to 2. So that's exactly what we have done so far here. So I'm still waiting for you to finish this slide before I move to the next slide. I'm still waiting for you. If you are true, you let me know. Teniola is not writing again. Teniola.
I have question.
Okay, where's your question?
So how do you get that equation?
Equation what?
3.
Equation 3 is gotten from here. Look at it. Look at it here. From equation 2, because like I told you, I said before you start using substitution method, you need to identify an unknown that is standing alone. Okay? So if you see what we have here, the unknown that is standing alone is what? Is this x.
Yes.
Had it been I could circle this, I would have circled this for you now. So it is this x that is standing alone. Okay, so and that is found in what it, and it belongs to equation 2. Okay, so we bring it out, x plus 3y equals to 8, and then we want to make this x the subject of a formula. So if you are making this x, because this x is already standing alone, so what do? We just take this plus 3y and send it to the other side. So when we send this plus 3y to the other side, it becomes minus 3y there. So that's how we now that's how we got x equals to 8 minus 3y. So we will now label it equation 3. Is that clear now?
Yes, sir.
So we label it equation 3. So once we have labeled it equation 3, we'll now substitute it back into equation 1. We will not substitute it back to equation 2 because it was from equation 2 that we got it out. So we will not go back to equation 2. We now substitute it into equation 1. If you substitute it into equation 2, everything will cancel out and you are going to get 0. You get 0, everything will cancel out. You can try it out maybe after the class, try to substitute back into equation 2. You are going to see that what I'm saying is true. So everything will be 0 to cancel out. So you don't do that, you substitute it into another equation, equation 1. So from there, we'll now take the steps downward like this, we'll simplify and we do all of these that we have, and then we get y is equal to 2. So have you copied all of this? Can we move forward now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Chisom, what about you? Chisom, are you in the class? Okay, let's move on. So we now have y is equal to 2. So we have
Yes, sir.
okay, y is equal to 2. So we have gotten y. We have gotten y. Okay, so now that we have gotten y, we'll now substitute 2 for y in equation 3 because we want to get x now. So we are not going to go to the palace of, in that equation 3, we have made x a king now. He's now the subject of the formula, is a king. He now has a palace of his own. X equals 8 minus 3y, that is the palace. So having got y equals to 2 now, we'll now substitute it back into the palace of x so that we can get x. We are not going to equation 1, we are not going to equation 2. We go straight to equation 3 where x is already the subject of the formula. That is what we are going to do. Chisom, put up your video. Let's get more let me get more interaction from you. Okay. So we substitute 2 for y in equation 3. So equation 3 says x equals 8 minus 3y. So anywhere we see y here, what do? We put 2. Okay. So x is equal to 8 minus 3 into 2. We have used this 2 to substitute for y. So what do? We multiply this out. 3 times 2 will give us 6. So we have x equals 8 minus 6. And that gives us x equals to 2. So therefore, our answer is x equals to 2, y equals to 2. So we have this as our answer using substitution method. Using substitution method. So if I'm to go over this substitution method again, what I'm going to say is this. I'm going to say step 1. Can you put this down? Can you write this down? What we have done here, I want to put it down in steps so that it can help you in case you see any question like this later and you want to use substitution method to solve it. So let's put it down in steps. Let's say step 1, identify the unknown with a coefficient of 1. The one that is standing alone is having coefficient of 1. That is the meaning. So let us use mathematical terminologies now. Let's not use layman language. I'm trying to break it down, so that you can understand. I'm trying to use terminologies that you are used to. Okay. So, but this is mathematics. Let us come back and use some mathematics terminologies. So the one that is standing alone is having a coefficient of 1. That is exactly what we are saying. So the first thing to do, step 1, is to identify the unknown with a coefficient of 1. I hope that is clear now. You understand the one that is having a coefficient of 1, Abi?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that is the one that is standing alone. Identify the unknown with the coefficient of 1. That is step 1. Then step 2. make the unknown the subject of formula. That's the next thing we need. That's the next step. So once you have identified that one, you bring it out and you make it the subject of the formula, like we did for X here. You make it the subject of formula. That is step 2. Step 3, label it as a new equation. Label it as a new equation. Are you following the steps now? Is it getting clearer to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So label it as a new equation. Then step 4. Step 4, substitute it back into another equation. Substitute it back into another equation. So now when I say substitute it back into another equation, what I mean is the second one, not the one that you brought it out from. I mean the second one. Okay? Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Is it clear? Is that step clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Because I'm trying to see what kind of English can I put there again. Substitute it back into another equation. Okay, let's just leave it like that. If I come up with any addition, I'll let you know so we can add it there to make it clearer. Okay, so that is step what? Step 4, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now we'll go to step 5. Step 5. Okay, we have said substitute back into another equation. Then step 5, simplify until you get an answer for one of the unknowns. Simplify until you get an answer for one of the unknowns. Because that's exactly what we have done here. After we substituted and then we began to simplify until we got this first unknown. So it may be X you are getting first, it may be Y you are getting first, it may be A, it may be B, depending on the unknowns that you have in the equation. Are you getting it now? It's not necessary that it is always Y you must get before X, or it's not necessary that your question must always contain X or Y. You know, you may have questions that contain M and N. You may have questions that contain P and Q. Do you get what I'm talking about now? Okay, so
Yes, sir.
it's not compulsory that you must always see X and Y in your equation. So step 5 says simplify until you get an answer for. Please come again, please. Can you give it to me? I've lost it.
For one of the unknown.
Speak louder. I can't hear you.
Simplify until you get an answer for one of the unknown.
Okay, beautiful. So simplify until you get an answer for one of the unknown. That's step 5. Then step 6, substitute it into the new equation. You know, there's only one new equation that we have, and that was equation 3. So you substitute it into the new equation, because you know equation 1 and equation 2 was given to us by the question. Equation 1 and equation 2 was given to us by the question. So, but the new equation that we formed was equation 3. Okay, so substitute into the new equation. That is step 6. Then step 7, simplify until you get the answer for the second unknown. Simplify until you get an answer for the second unknown. So we have about 7 steps now. We have broken down what we have done today into about 7 steps. Simplify until you get an answer for the second unknown. Now, what you are going to do for me, you are going to, let me say, this part where I have given you 7 steps, okay? I'm going to give you class activity to do. Now, what you do is this part that I've given you 7 steps, you are going to snap it and send it to me together with your class activity. Do we understand? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Chisom, is that clear? All right. So I'm going to give you a question that you're going to solve. So you solve that question and then you snap it and send to my WhatsApp alongside with these 7 steps that I have given you, alongside with the 7 steps that I've given you. So your question is, this is your question. I'm giving you a GCE question, 2007. Yes, this question I'm giving you. So copy it, solve the equations 3x plus 1 over 2y equals to 8. Then second one, 1 over 2x plus 2y equals to 9. Let's see who is the smartest. Let's see who the smartest is. I want to see who the smartest is. Okay. Does it look difficult? Teniola, does it look difficult? Does it look difficult? No. Chisom, does it look difficult?
Somehow.
Somehow
Difficult.
Somehow difficult. Okay, now I'm going to give you a hint. Do you want to get the hint? Or should I just allow you to go and try it out? Should I give you a hint or not?
Yes, sir.
Teniola, but you said it's not. You said it does not look difficult. Teniola, you say it does not look difficult. So why do you want a hint? Why do you want a hint? You said it does not look difficult. So if I'm going to give anybody a hint, it's going to be Chisom, because Chisom was the one that said it looks somehow difficult, somehow. So Chisom, I'm going to send the hints to you personally. I'm not giving any hints to Teniola at all. Teniola doesn't deserve to be given a hint, because Teniola is a mathematics champion. She knows it. Teniola? Okay, now let me give you a hint, the two of you. I'm going to give you a hint. Now, what makes this look difficult is because of this 1 over 2 you are seeing. This 1 over 2 you are seeing, Abi. You see 1 over 2 here. You see another one here, 1 over 2. That is what makes it look difficult, that fractional part.
Yes.
So that means the first thing for you to do is to take away this fractional part. How do you take away this fractional part? For this equation 1, 2 is the LCM, because 2 is the one that is under, is the LCM. So what you do is just multiply everything by 2. Multiply everything by 2. Once you multiply everything by 2, you multiply 3x by 2. That will give you 6x. If you multiply this one by 2, the 2 will cancel this 2, so that the fractional part will disappear. And then you also multiply this 8 by 2. That will give you 16. So you now have a new equation 1. In that new equation 1 now, you will not see any fraction there again. The fraction would have disappeared. Are we together? Okay.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
for equation 2 also, 2 is also the LCM of equation 2, because we are seeing 1 over 2. So 2 is also the denominator here. It's also the LCM. So the same thing you are going to do, multiply all of them by 2. So if you multiply this one by 2, multiply the first one by 2, 2 will cancel 2. So the fraction will disappear. You'll be left with only x. You come here again, multiply this one by 2. 2 times 2y, you are going to get 4y. You come here again and multiply this by 2. 2 times 9, you are going to have 18. So you are going to have a new equation 2. So this first equation 1 and this first equation 2, all the fraction will disappear. You now have new equation 1. You have new equation 2. Then you are busy jotting the hint, but Chisom is not jotting the hint. Chisom, don't say you have forgotten, no. Don't say you have forgotten, no. I've given you hint already. And Teniola, she has proven smart to jot down the hint, because I'm seeing she's jotting down the hint. I'm seeing okay, so that is how you are going to get. So for equation 1 now, you are going to have a new equation 1, and your new equation 1 will now be 6x plus y equals to 16. By the time you have multiplied by 2, okay? By the time you have multiplied by 2, you multiply this one by 2, it will give you 6x. You multiply this one by 2. When you multiply this one by 2, the 2 will cancel this 2, so you only have y. So the fraction has disappeared. That's how to clear fraction. It will disappear. And then this one will now be 2 times 8, 16. So you have a new equation 1. Now for your new equation 2, what you are going to have, you have x plus 4y equals to 18. That's your new equation 2. X plus 4y equals to 18. Now how do we get that? If you multiply this by 2, 2 divided by 2, it will disappear. So you only have x. So this fraction will go. Okay, and then this one will now be 4y, that's 2 times 2y, and this one will be 18, that's 2 times 9. I have given you enough hint. So go ahead and solve using substitution method. I wish you all the best. I'll be expecting the answers from you today, latest by 4 p.m. Don't forget, when you are snapping your answer, you also snap the 7 steps that I gave you,
Yes.
snap it alongside with your answers and send to me. So can we call it a day now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'll be seeing you guys.
Yes.
I'll be seeing you guys later in another class, hopefully next week. So enjoy the rest of your day. My regards to your moms. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.